Everyone's scared of Chicago. The headlines, the news segments, the politicians pointing fingers. War zone, they call it. Urban nightmare. And sure, New York, Detroit, Baltimore, they get their share of the fear-mongering too. But here's what nobody tells you. Mathematically, statistically, cold hard data speaking, you might be safer walking through downtown Chicago at midnight than strolling through some of these small towns in broad daylight. Welcome to the per capita trap. See, when a city has 2.7 million people like Chicago, even hundreds of violent crimes get diluted across that massive population. The rate per 100,000 residents stays relatively manageable. But when a town has 10,000 people and 50 violent crimes, that rate explodes. Suddenly your quiet little main street has a violence index that would make the South Side blush. Small population, same crime, bigger rate, bigger problem. These are the towns that don't make national news. The ones with quaint bed and breakfast on Google Images and body bags in the county morgue. The postcard lies. The brochure lies. The charming downtown lies. I'm the cynical realist. I trust numbers, not real estate agents. And I'm here to warn you because small town does not always mean safe. We're counting down 10 towns that look like Mayberry but feel like Breaking Bad. Towns where the violent crime rate per capita leaves Chicago in the dust. Towns where you don't walk the dog after dark. Let's break it down. Number 10, Lumberton, North Carolina. Pull up Lumberton on Google Images. Go ahead. I'll wait. What do you see? Spanish moss dripping from old oaks. A quaint downtown with brick storefronts that haven't changed since 1962. The Lumber River winding through, reflecting those Carolina blue skies. Maybe a church steeple or two. It looks like the kind of place where people say bless your heart and actually mean it. Population, around 20,000. Small enough to feel cozy. Big enough to have a Walmart. Located right where a 95 slices through Robeson County like a concrete artery pumping traffic and everything that comes with it straight through the sleepy southern town. Looks peaceful, doesn't it? The postcard lies. Chicago's violent crime rate hovers around 900 per 100,000 residents. That's the number everyone clutches their pearls over. The number that launches 1,000 think pieces. Lumberton, try north of 1,100 per 100,000. Some years pushing 1,300. Read that again. This little town, the one with the fishing spots and the antique shops and the welcome to Robeson County signs, has a violent crime rate roughly 25% higher than Chicago's. Per capita, you're way more likely to be a victim of violent crime here than the city politicians use as a boogeyman. Chicago gets the headlines. Lumberton gets the body bags. 3 words, Interstate 90.5. Lumberton sits directly on I-95, the East Coast main trafficking corridor. Everything flows through here: drugs, guns, people, money. It's a pit stop between Miami and New York, and not the wholesome let's get gas and stretch our legs kind. Add crippling poverty to Robeson County is one of the poorest in North Carolina, and you've got a recipe for disaster. Median household income sits around $32,000, well below the national average. Jobs dried up. Mills closed. Hurricanes Matthew and Florence didn't just flood homes, they drowned hope. When the economy collapses, crime fills the vacuum. Every time. Drive-bys aren't rare here. They're routine. Gas stations get robbed in broad daylight. Home invasions happen to people who forgot to lock their doors because this is a small town. Nothing happens here. Something always happens here. Armed robberies at the grocery store. Shootings outside the high school. Bodies found in the woods along the river, the same river that looks so pretty. And those tourism photos. One local put it perfectly. I grew up here thinking it was safe because it was small. Then my neighbor got carjacked at the Piggly Wiggly at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. Moved my mom into Fayetteville. Never looked back. Beyond the crime, Lumberton's got problems stacked on problems. Schools rank near the bottom in North Carolina. Infrastructure's crumbling. Those hurricanes did real damage, and the recovery money never seems to reach the right places. Healthcare options are limited. Jobs that pay living wages. Good luck. Poverty rate sits around 30%. That's not a typo. Nearly 1 in 3 residents lives below the poverty line. You can buy a house here for $80,000, but you get what you pay for. Would you take the risk for cheap rent and that southern charm? Or does I-95 sound less like a convenience and more like a warning? Number 9. Gallup, New Mexico. Gallup calls itself adventure capital of New Mexico. And honestly, the photos don't lie at first. Red Rock Mesa stretching toward infinite blue skies. Historic Route 66 running straight through downtown, lined with trading posts selling turquoise jewelry and authentic Navajo crafts. Murals everywhere. Art galleries. That dusty, romantic Southwest energy that makes you want to buy a Jeep and chase sunsets. Population, about 22,000. Small enough to feel intimate. Surrounded by the Navajo Nation and Zuni Pueblo. Gateway to some of the most stunning landscapes in America. Google Images shows you adventure. The FBI crime statistics show you something else entirely. Chicago's violent crime rate, roughly 900 per 100,000. Gallup's violent crime rate, over 1,000 per 100 per 100,000. Some years it's cracked 1,700. That's not 25% higher than Chicago. That's nearly double. Per capita, you're way more likely to experience violent crime in this adventure capital than in most major American cities. The Tourism Board doesn't mention that between the hiking recommendations and sunset viewpoints. The brochure conveniently left out the assault statistics. It's complicated and it's tragic. Gallup sits at a crossroads literally and figuratively between the Navajo Nation and the rest of America. The reservation borders create jurisdictional nightmares. Tribal police, county sheriffs, federal agents, everyone has authority, which sometimes means nobody does. Add in generational poverty, the highest rates of alcohol-related deaths in New Mexico, and limited economic opportunities, and you've got a perfect storm. The opioid crisis hit hard. Meth hit harder. Employment on nearby reservations can exceed 40%. When people are desperate, desperate things happen. Violent assaults happen in broad daylight, not in back alleys on the main drag, outside the trading posts. Near the Route 66 signs tourists love photographing. Stabbings outside bars that never seem to close. Domestic violence calls that don't get answered because there aren't enough officers. Sexual assault rates that would make national news if this weren't a forgotten corner of New Mexico. The crime doesn't discriminate. Tourists get targeted too. One resident said, "I tell people Gallup is beautiful, and it is. But I also tell them to stay in their car after dark. Roll up the windows. Don't stop for anyone. It's not racism, it's survival." Beyond violence, Gallup faces crushing social problems. Alcohol addiction rates are astronomical. Homelessness is visible everywhere walk through downtown, and you can't miss it. Mental health services are virtually non-existent. The median household income is around $38,000. Schools struggle. The hospital is perpetually overwhelmed. You can buy a house here for under $150. Zero with views that belong on a postcard. But the view doesn't protect you. Would you risk it for those red rock sunsets and Route 66? Nostalgia, or is adventure capital starting to sound like a liability waiver? Number 8. Danville, Illinois. Danville looks exactly like what you picture when someone says small Midwest town. Treeland streets, Victorian homes with wraparound porches. A downtown that time forgot folk theaters, antique shops. Maybe a diner with a neon sign. Population, about 30,000. Though it's been shrinking for decades, once upon a time, this was a thriving manufacturing hub, coal mines. Factories, the American dream in brick and mortar. Now, drive through and you'll see the ghost of that prosperity. Boarded up storefronts. Empty lots where factories stood. For sale signs that have been there so long they've become permanent fixtures, it looks peaceful. Because it looks empty, that's not the same thing. Chicago, approximately 900 violent crimes per 100,000 residents. Danville, over 1,100 per 100,000, some years significantly higher. Here's the kicker. Danville is only 140 miles south of Chicago. When things get too hot in the city, people relocate. And not just the people running from trouble, the people bringing it. Chicago's gang activity didn't stop at the city limits. It metastasized, and Danville caught the cancer. Per capita nightmare. Population plummeting, crime rate climbing, Rust Belt collapse. Textbook edition, the factories left, the jobs left, the young people with options left. What stayed? Poverty, addiction, and eventually, organized crime filling the economic void. Chicago-based gangs established footholds here because it's quieter, cheaper, and law enforcement is stretched thin. Danville became a distribution hub. Drugs flow through, money flows back, bodies stay behind. The opioid epidemic turned walking wounded into casualties. Meth followed heroin, followed fentanyl. Each wave worse than the last. Drive-by shootings in neighborhoods where grandmothers used to sit on porches, armed robberies at gas stations that locals know to avoid, bodies dumped in the abandoned industrial lots that used to employ their fathers. One month in 2019, Danville had more shootings than some Chicago neighborhoods. Let that sink in. One commenter wrote, "I grew up here when it was still safe. Now I visit my parents, and they've got cameras, motion lights, and a gun in every room. My mom is 72. She shouldn't have to live like this." Poverty rate hovers around 25%. Median household income is roughly $35,000. Schools are underfunded, understaffed, underperforming. The population has dropped by over 40% since its peak. Entire neighborhoods are hollowing out. You can buy a Victorian mansion here for $40,000 for cops. Nobody else can. The remaining businesses are fleeing. Hospital services have been cut. The town is eating itself. Would you buy that $40,000 mansion? Or is the neighborhood watch not enough when the gangs watch back? Number 7. Alexandria, Louisiana. Alexandria. The very name sounds genteel, historic, maybe a little romantic. And the photos deliver. Antebellum architecture. Spanish moss doing that thing Spanish moss does, making everything look like a Tennessee Williams play. The Red River rolling through. Gardens that bloom year-round because Louisiana doesn't understand winter. Population, roughly 47,000. The heart of Louisiana, they call it, centrally located. Historic downtown with cobblestone vibes, churches on every corner. Crawfish boils and Friday night football. Southern charm distilled into a city. Except the crime rate reads like something from a war zone. Chicago sits around 900 violent crimes per 100,000. Alexandria regularly exceeds 1,000 per 100,000, some years hitting 1,100 or higher. Let me be clear, this is a city where people still say ma'am and sir, where churches outnumber bars, where everybody knows everybody, and it's statistically more dangerous than Chicago. The magnolias don't make you safe. The hospitality doesn't make you safe. The crime doesn't care about your manners. Poverty, deep, generational, systemic poverty. Alexandria's median household income sits around $33,000, nearly $40,000 below the national average. The poverty rate exceeds 30% when that much of your population is struggling to survive. Desperation becomes currency. The drug trade found fertile ground here. Crack in the 80s and 90s, meth and opioids in the 2000s and 2010s. Gangs established territory. The violence became the dispute resolution system. Military base closures didn't help. When England Air Force Base shut down in 1992, it ripped the economic heart out of the region. Nothing filled the void. Shootings at apartment complexes that happen so regularly they barely make the local news anymore. Carjackings at shopping centers. Home invasions where entire families are held at gunpoint. The violence isn't hidden in dark corners. It happens at intersections, outside restaurants, and parking lots where people are just trying to live their lives. One local wrote, "I love Alexandria. Born, raised, but I carry everywhere now. Church, grocery store, picking up my kids everywhere. That's not paranoia, that's just life here. Schools struggle. Healthcare access is limited. Louisiana ranks near the bottom nationally. And Alexandria isn't an exception. Jobs that pay living wages are scarce. Infrastructure crumbles. The roads are terrible. Flooding is a constant threat. Climate change isn't theoretical here, it's the water in your living room. But houses are cheap. You can get a historic home for under $100,000. You just have to ask yourself what that discount really costs. Would you trade safety for Southern charm and cheap real estate? Or does Heart of Louisiana sound more like a target than a tagline? Number 6. Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Pine Bluff used to be something. You can see it in the architecture, grand old buildings, beautiful churches. A downtown that once bustled with commerce and culture. The photos still show some of that. The Arkansas River, historic districts, stately homes with columns and porches, a main street that whispers of better days. Population, around 41,000, though it's been bleeding residents for decades. Once a prosperous hub for paper mills, manufacturing, and agriculture. The kind of place where families put down roots and stayed for generations. Those days are gone. Here's where it gets ugly. Chicago, roughly 900. Violent crimes per 100,000. Pine Bluff consistently exceeds 1,500 per 100,000. Some years it's cleared to 1,000. Read that again. 2,000 violent crimes per 100,000 residents. That's more than double Chicago's rate. Pine Bluff isn't just more dangerous than Chicago, it's regularly ranked among the most dangerous cities in America, period. Not per capita dangerous, just dangerous. This isn't Mayberry with the dark side. This is Mayberry meets Mad Max. Economic collapse, total. Devastating, unrecovered economic collapse. The paper mills closed. The factories shuttered. Jobs evaporated. Young people with options fled to Little Rock, Memphis, anywhere else. What remained was a hollowed-out population with no opportunities and no hope. Poverty rate, nearly 30%. When legitimate economies fail, illegitimate ones rise. Drug trafficking, property crime. Violence is the enforcement mechanism. Pine Bluff's violent crime isn't abstract, it's visceral. Shootings at gas stations, armed robberies at fast food restaurants, home invasions that turn fatal. The police department is understaffed and overwhelmed. Response times suffer. Investigations stall. Cases go cold. Entire neighborhoods have been abandoned not just by residents, but by hope. One poster said, "I'm from Pine Bluff. I tell people I'm from Little Rock because I'm tired of the looks. Tired of explaining that not everyone there is a criminal. Just tired." Schools are struggling, graduation rates and test scores rank among the lowest in Arkansas. The hospital has faced closure threats. Businesses have fled, leaving food deserts and pharmacy deserts. Population decline accelerates every census. Properties sit vacant, becoming magnets for crime and decay. You can buy a house here for $30,000, a real house with rooms and a yard. But the neighborhood might come with threats that aren't listed on Zillow. Would you bet on Pine Bluff's potential comeback? Or is that $30,000 house the most expensive gamble you'd ever take? Number 5. Saginaw, Michigan. Saginaw has ghosts, not the supernatural kind, the industrial kind. You can see them everywhere. Grand Victorian mansions that sold for 6 figures in 1920 and now sit empty, rotting. Listing for $10,000 or less. A downtown built for prosperity that never came back. Wide streets designed for traffic that doesn't exist anymore. Population, around 44,000. Down from over 98,000 at its peak. That's not decline, that's collapse. But the photos can still find beauty. The Saginaw River, historic theaters. Those incredible mansions, if you squint past the boarded windows, it looks like what Detroit fears becoming. Except Saginaw already became it. Chicago, approximately 900 violent crimes per 100,000. Saginaw regularly exceeds 1,400 per 100,000. Peak years have seen rates approach 2,000. This isn't hyperbole. FBI crime data, year after year, ranks Saginaw among the most violent cities in Michigan and often in America. It's the other Detroit, except per capita, it's worse. General Motors, that's the short version. The long version, Saginaw's economy was built on a single industry, automotive manufacturing. When GM downsized, relocated, and automated, Saginaw didn't just lose jobs. It lost its reason to exist. Unemployment spiked. Population cratered, tax base evaporated, city services got cut, police departments shrank just as crime began climbing. Into that vacuum came drugs, gangs, and desperation. Crack cocaine devastated neighborhoods in the 80s and 90s. The opioid epidemic added another layer of tragedy in the 2000s and 2010s. Saginaw's violence is concentrated but brutal. Certain neighborhoods have become no-go zones even for police. Shootings happen blocks from the historic downtown, carjackings at intersections. Bodies left in vacant lots, of which there are thousands. The city once tried offering those $1 houses to attract newcomers. Some took the deal. Some left within months. One local commented, "I bought a Victorian mansion here for $8,000. $8,000. It's gorgeous, but I also installed floodlights, cameras, and steel doors. Beautiful prison." Median household income hovers around $29,000. Poverty rate exceeds 35%, more than 1 in 3 residents. Schools are chronically underfunded. Lead contamination in water has been an ongoing concern. Healthcare access is limited. Businesses continue leaving. Those Victorian mansions, stunning. And many are unsellable at any price because the neighborhoods surrounding them are too dangerous. Too unsure, too unstable to mortgage. Would you take the $10,000 mansion and the risk? Or is architectural beauty not worth the bullet holes? Number 4. West Memphis, Arkansas. West Memphis isn't Memphis. The people who live there will tell you that quickly, sometimes defensively. It's a separate city, in a separate state. Across the Mississippi River, there are some parks, a few historic sites. Google Images finds some decent shots if you try hard enough: trees, sunsets, that big river. But mostly, it looks like what it is, a crossroads, a place people pass through. The problem is who passes through. Chicago, roughly 900 violent crimes per 100,000. West Memphis regularly exceeds 500 per 100,000, some years significantly higher. That makes this truck stop town, this pass-through city, this were not Memphis suburb, more dangerous per capita than Chicago by a considerable margin. Cross the bridge from Memphis, and you've entered statistically more dangerous territory. Lock your doors. Location, 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 except the dark version. West Memphis sits at the intersection of major interstates connecting the entire nation. I-40 runs through. I-55 is right there. Every long-haul trucker knows this exit. Every drug runner knows it too. The truck stop economy attracts transient crime, human trafficking, drug distribution. The kind of activity that thrives in places people don't stay long enough to notice. Add local poverty, median household income around $32,000, and you've got residents struggling while criminals exploit the geography. The West Memphis 3Ks put this town on the map. For all the wrong reasons, 3 teenagers convicted controversially of murdering 3 children in what became one of America's most infamous true crime cases. But that was 1993. The crime didn't stop. Truck stops get robbed, motels host violence, drug deals go wrong in parking lots. The transient nature of the population means witnesses disappear before police arrive. One trucker posted, "I've driven cross-country for 20 years. I skip West Memphis. I'll drive an extra hour to fuel up somewhere else. Not worth it. Schools underperform. Jobs pay poorly." The truck stop economy doesn't build communities, it just builds traffic. Property crime is astronomical to people passing through are easy targets, car break-ins, thefts. You name it. Houses are cheap, under $80,000 for something decent. But decent doesn't include the neighborhood. Would you live where America's highways intersect? Or does convenient location sound more like convenient for criminals? Number 3. Monroe, Louisiana. Monroe is that Louisiana charm on the surface, but watching the river winding through historic downtown with antebellum architecture, oak trees doing that photogenic with the mosque, crawfish, and college football. Population around 48,000, big enough to have a University of Louisiana Monroe, small enough to feel neighborly. The birthplace of Delta Airlines, a city with history, culture, and roots. Sounds lovely, doesn't it? Chicago, roughly 900 violent crimes per 100,000. Monroe consistently exceeds 1,100 per 100,000. Some years pushing toward 1,500 or higher. This city of 40 acres, hero with its university and its history and its southern hospitality regularly ranks in the top 5 most dangerous cities in America per capita. Sometimes number 1, sometimes number 2. Not in Louisiana, not in the South, in America. Monroe isn't just more dangerous than Chicago. It keeps the city's 3 times the size for the title of most violent. Concentrated poverty in specific neighborhoods, generational trauma, and an economy that never diversified beyond paper mills and petroleum industries that have declined for decades. Median household income is around $30,000. Poverty rate exceeds 30%. When nearly a third of your population lives in poverty, the wealthy live in completely separate enclaves. You get friction, and friction turns violent. Gangs control certain areas. The drug trade is the most reliable employer in neighborhoods where legitimate businesses won't. Open violence becomes the language of commerce. The murders make local news almost weekly. Shootings at apartment complexes, drive-bis targets, houses where children sleep, bodies found in the morning by people going to work. It's not random, it's systematic. Territory, drugs, money, revenge cycle repeats, and it's normalizing. That's the scariest part. People adjust to it. One resident said, "I've lived in Monroe my whole life. I don't go certain places after dark. Actually, I don't go certain places during the day. It's just how it is. Schools struggle. Healthcare access is limited. Louisiana ranks near the bottom nationally. And Monroe doesn't escape that. Jobs are scarce outside healthcare and education. The population has been declining. Young people leave. Businesses close. Investment rises. Historic homes can be bought for under $100,000, but history doesn't protect you. Would you move to Monroe for the cheap houses and southern charm? Or does regularly ranked most violent city in America suggest the charm comes at too high a cost? Number 2. Anniston, Alabama. Anniston calls itself the Model City. That nickname dates back to the 1870s when it was founded as a planned community organized. Intentional, designed for prosperity. And you can still see the bones of that ambition. Historic architecture, tree-lined streets, mountains visible in the distance. The kind of small-town Alabama aesthetic that looks great in real estate listings. And retirement brochures. Population, around 21,000. Small enough to feel intimate. Close enough to Birmingham for occasional city access. Far enough to feel separate. The Model City, it's a name that hasn't aged well. Chicago, roughly 900 violent crimes per 100,000. Anniston regularly exceeds 1,400 per 100,000, some years approaching 2,000. A city of 21,000 people, with violent crime rates that would make national headlines if this were anywhere. People paid attention to. The Model City nickname isn't just ironic, it's a dark joke now. Military base closure and industrial contamination, the double whammy. Fort McClellan closed in 1999, taking thousands of jobs with it. Monsanto left behind decades of PCB contamination. Anniston was one of the most polluted places in America. The environmental damage became a health crisis. The economic damage became a social crisis. When the military left and the factory poisoned the ground, what remained? Poverty, desperation, and eventually, crime filling the gaps. Median household income, around $28,000, poverty rate exceeding 30%. The violence in Anniston is personal, in a town this small. Victims and perpetrators know each other. Domestic disputes turn fatal. Drug deals go wrong between neighbors. Feuds escalate into shootings. Police are understaffed. The department has struggled with recruitment and retention. Response times suffer. Crimes go unsolved. One local wrote, "I tell people I am from near Birmingham, because explaining Anniston requires a history lesson and a warning. Beyond crime, Anniston faces environmental health concerns that persist decades after Monsanto left. Cancer rates, developmental issues, trusted. Institutions evaporated along with the jobs. Schools underperform. Downtown storefronts sit empty. The population continues declining down from over 30,000 at its peak. Houses are cheap, incredibly cheap. But the environmental and social costs don't show up on Zillow. Would you buy a house in the Model City, or has that model been discontinued for good reason? Number 1. Bessemer, Alabama. Bessemer looks like a suburb. That's the trap. 20 minutes from downtown Birmingham, tree-lined neighborhoods, ranch houses and modest colonials, parks, churches, schools with mascots and football teams. All the aesthetic markers of safe. Suburban American life. Population, around 26,000. Small enough to seem manageable. Big enough to have services. The kind of place that looks like where you raise kids. Google Images shows normalcy. Safe streets. Normal houses. Normal life. The FBI crime data shows something else entirely. Chicago, approximately 900 violent crimes per 100,000. Bessemer, consistently exceeds 2,000 per 100,000, some years approaching 2,500. That's not a typo. That's not a statistical anomaly. That's consistent. Year-over-year data showing Bessemer as one of the most violent cities in America, relative to its population. More than double Chicago's rate, a suburban-looking city with battlefield statistics. This is the per capita king, the crown nobody wants. Bessemer was built on steel, U.S. steel specifically, when the industry collapsed. So, did the city's economic foundation, jobs left, tax revenue vanished, city services deteriorated. Population declined from a peak of over 33,000 to the current 26,000 and falling. Birmingham's crime problems didn't stay in Birmingham. They followed the highways into suburbs like Bessemer. Drug trafficking routes passed through. Gang territory extends across city lines. Violence doesn't recognize municipal boundaries. Median household income, around $32,000. Poverty rate exceeding 25%. The violence in Bessemer is routine. Shootings at shopping centers, armed robberies at businesses. Home invasions in residential neighborhoods, the same neighborhoods that look so normal in photos. What makes Bessemer terrifying is the contrast. This isn't a place that looks dangerous. It looks like every other suburb in America, until it isn't. Police deal with limited resources, investigations take time, cases pile up. One resident posted, "I bought a house here because it was cheap and close to Birmingham. I've heard gunshots 3 times. This month, it's only the 15th. Cheap isn't cheap when you can't sleep." Schools struggle with funding and outcomes. Healthcare access is limited. Businesses hesitate to invest. The population continues declining. You can buy a house here for $60,000, a real house, with a yard near Birmingham. The mathematics seem impossible. They're not impossible. They're a warning. Would you take that $60,000 house and the risk? Or is the most dangerous per capita city in America not worth any discount? So there you have it. 10 towns that look peaceful and aren't. 10 places where the postcards lie. The real estate listings omit crucial information. And the crime rates outpace cities with 10 times the population. Chicago gets the headlines. These towns get the body bags. Small town doesn't mean safe. Cheap housing doesn't mean opportunity. That quaint main street might be lovely in daylight and terrifying after dark. I'm the cynical realist. I trust numbers, not brochures, and the numbers say, do your research before you move anywhere. FBI crime data is public. City data websites exist. Reddit threads tell truths real estate agents won't. Don't let the facade fool you. Don't let cheap rent make you forget to ask why it's cheap. And whatever you do, don't walk the dog after dark. Subscribe for more uncomfortable truths. Comment with towns I missed, and remember, the most dangerous places in America aren't always the ones that look like it. Stay safe, stay skeptical, and keep your doors locked.